Workflow. Okay, so what's a workflow? It's quite similar to an email inbox. Basically, what you're going to have is a grid where you're going to receive all kinds of activities. And these activities, uh, they're your daily tasks that you have to perform. Okay, so let's say I'm a teacher, okay, and I have to perform different tasks. So every day I receive in my workflow, maybe you have a new course to perform from this day to that day, or you have a new exam to correct, or you have a question from a student that you need to review. Okay, so that those would be the typical tasks a trainer or a teacher would receive in his workflow. And when they receive these tasks, they have to perform them. Obviously, the tasks that I'm performing, they're part of a process. Okay, so what's going to happen in this process, this is something we'll see later. The flow is going to enter our task. Once it enters, a new task is going to appear in my workflow. What I'm going to do, I'm going to perform this task. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. It's going to open. I'm going to do whatever I have to do with it. And once I finish it, it's going to disappear. And once it disappears, the flow is going to continue in this process to the next object, to the next step, the next activity that has to be performed in the process. Okay, so let's say my task was answering a student, one of his questions. Okay, so I answer his question, and once I finish, the flow leaves this object. Okay, this is something we'll learn later on during this course. And once the flow leaves this object, it might go to another activity that has to be performed. Maybe it goes to the student. He sees the information I sent him and he has to confirm that he's happy with the answer, or maybe he's not and he needs to create another answer. Okay? Sorry, another question. Besides, the system is always going to control all the time that's spent in all these activities and tasks, and it's going to be able to send us alerts, notifications via email, SMS, and so on. Okay, so it's going to be able to remind me of what I have to do at every moment. Okay, obviously, this is not like an alarm clock, it's not something set that I have to program initially, it's totally dynamic. So, for example, let's say I need to answer my students in less than 24 hours. The system is going to warn me. Maybe after 12 hours, it's going to tell me, look, you've got pending questions to answer, and 12 hours have already passed. You need to answer them. And maybe later on, it's going to send me another alarm to my phone telling me, look, 24 hours have already passed. The student has been waiting more than 24 hours. Okay, so not only can I enter my grid with all these activities that I need to perform, but I could also have the system push this information towards me, send me this information to my phone, to my email, via SMS, so I know that what I have to do at each moment. Another interesting feature is that the system is going to be able to assign any new task to anyone who has less tasks in their workflow. Let's say I'm working with a team of teachers, and each teacher has a number of questions that different students are sending in. Okay, and let's say a new task arrives with a new question. Who is it going to assign this new question? Well, to the teacher who has less in his queue. Okay, so maybe Anna is the one who less had, so the new task is automatically assigned to Anna. This feature is called load balancing. Obviously, we can build all kinds of different uh, or additional types of load balancing, but this would be a simple load balancing that's already native created in the application. So all we have to do is just check an option, and immediately it's going to automatically work this way, okay? Delivering the tasks uh, depending on the amount of tasks that we already have in our workflow. Another interesting feature is that we can customize our workflow so each user can easily see their pending tasks. Okay, so here we can see an image where I might receive my tasks, and besides, it tells me of each type of tasks how many activities do I have to perform. For example, in this scenario, in this case, in this example, I only have one question of a student. I also have to deliver one course. Well, actually, here I have another one, and here I have another question. Okay, so this would be my dashboard with my different activities grouped by different types. Okay, as it says here, we can easily uh, design dashboards for different roles, for different departments, and so on. Besides, we can use all kinds of different devices in order to interact with the platform. So what if we forget to access the application, or we just want Autoportal to notify us about the more important activities? As I mentioned before, we can activate notifications to our phone, to our computer, and so on. For example, here on our computer, we've indicated that we want maybe a pop-up message to appear each time we have outstanding tasks to perform. Or maybe in our phone, we want a little uh, pop-up message to appear here on our block screen so we know that we have something new or something has been happening in a process that we have to manage. Besides, there's also an option to hide tasks, so we can perform tasks as soon as we receive them, but we can also plan them in order to finish them later on. So here we have an example where I receive a task at a certain moment and a certain time, and I decide to hide it. Okay, why do I want to hide it? Well, maybe because I can't perform it right now. So I hide my task, it's hidden, it's there in my workflow, but I can't see it during a few days or a few months. And when the moment in time arrives, it's going to pop up again into my workflow. Okay, and it's going to be highlighted so I know I have to perform it. After that, maybe a couple days later, I'm going to perform my task, and once I've done that, uh, my task is going to disappear from my workflow. Another interesting feature is that even the most complex assignments of activities is going to be very simple to configure. Okay, so let's say we have a new task, we want it to be managed by Anna, but if Anna is on vacations, we want to assign it automatically to Pedro. After that, maybe Pedro, if he wants, he can delegate it to Pete, and Pete can send it to a profile of people. And maybe this profile, once they're finished, is going to be sent to a group of translators and so on. Okay, so the same activity could be moving from one performer to another one if maybe a certain performer can't manage it or it has to be delegated to someone else. And there's all kinds of different complex assignments that are really simple to set up in the system. In our portal, we can also assign the performers automatically or dynamically based on information that we're having once the process has already started. So let's say we have an example as this one in which the process starts and the second task is going to be assigned to junior or a senior reviewer based on the amount of invoices. Okay, so we don't have the amount of invoices set up in the system, but we do have it in external ERP. But since the application can communicate with that system, it retrieves this data from the external system and it assigns the manager automatically. Okay. After that, there's a revisor. And after that, there's a system task that automatically updates information in a data repository. And finally, it sends a task to a customer. Okay. And to what customer is it going to send this task? Well, it depends on the process. Okay, so basically what the system is doing, it's dynamically using the information it has in order to assign the activities to the different performers.